Good evening, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy whatever you celebrate. Welcome to the 2020 Moon Theater holiday video. We are so excited to get this video up for you guys. It is going to be so great. It is going to shed so much light on the dark times we've had this year during this holiday season. I know I've had a lot of dark times. My family has. I'm sure all of you guys had too. This year has definitely sucked in every way, shape, and form you could possibly think of, but this will definitely shine light on some of those dark times. My name is Ben. I will be your host throughout this video. I am very excited to be part of this year. I'm so excited that the board of directors asked me to host this for this year. I was honored and I was thrilled to do it. So we're going to jump into the video. But first, before we do that, make sure to like this video, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also there's going to be a GoFundMe page in the description. Please go on there, and I encourage you to donate to Moon Theater. They've put on so many great productions over the past years that I've been a part of, that a lot of other people have been a part of, and we're definitely looking forward to putting more on in the future. So without further ado, sit back, relax, open a bottle of wine, have some popcorn, drink a soda, drink a beer. It's your choice. We're going to get right into the video. We're going to start tonight with a message from the mayor from the town of Berthoud, Will Karspeck.
Hi Berthoud, I'm your mayor, Will Karspeck, speaking from Town Park. This last year has been so crazy, it's impossible to not have been affected somehow. But I do hope you use these last couple weeks of December to relax and focus on what matters, your relationships. I hope you spread joy and are open to receiving some as well. Have a happy and safe holiday.
When I was a young turkey, new to the coop, my big brother Mike took me out on the stoop. And he sat me down and he spoke real slow. And he told me there was something that I had to know. His look and his tone I will always remember. When he told me the horrors of Black November. Come about August, now listen to me. Each day you'll be thick where once you were thin, and you'll grow a big rubbery thing under your chin. And then one morning, when you're warm in your bed, in'll burst the farmer's wife and hack off your head. Then she'll pluck out all your feathers so you're bald and you're pink, and scoop out all your insides and leave you lying in the sink. And then comes the worst part, he said, not bluffing. She'll spread your cheeks and pack your rear with stuffing. Well, the rest of his words were too grim to repeat. I sat on the stoop like a winged piece of meat, and decided on the spot that to avoid being cooked, I'd have to lay low and remain overlooked. I began a new diet of nuts and granola, high roughage salads, juice, and diet cola. And as they ate pastries, chocolates, and grapes, I stayed in my room doing Jane Fonda tapes. I maintained my weight of 2.5 pounds, and tried not to notice when the bigger birds laughed. But 'twas I who was laughing under my breath as they chomped and they chewed ever closer to death. And sure enough, when Black November rolled around, I was the last turkey left in the entire compound. So now I'm a pet in the farmer's wife's lap. I haven't to worry, so I eat and I nap. She held me today while sewing and humming, and smiled at me and said, Christmas is coming.
On April 16th, 1935, Fibber McGee and Molly went on the air and became one of radio's most popular and enduring radio shows. Fibber McGee, a long-winded, overconfident, bumbling husband, and his long-suffering and patient wife, Molly, were created and played by the real-life husband and wife team of Jim and Marion Jordan. Along with a revolving door of friends and pesky neighbors that visited Fibber and Molly at their cozy cottage at 79 Wistful Vista, they entertained radio audiences from 1935 to 1959. Much of the humor of the show relied on running gags, of which the most memorable and enduring was Fibber McGee's closet. Fibber would open his hall closet only to have a noisy avalanche of various items fall out, burying him. Created by NBC's sound team, it became one of the most recognizable sound effects in the world, and the words Fibber McGee's closet became synonymous with household clutter. And now, Moon Theater presents Fibber McGee and Molly, with Steve Rausch as Fibber McGee, Teresa Collins as Molly, Jennifer Scheides as Alice, and Hope Weiss-Dunn as Teeny, and myself, Bill Graham, as Doc and the announcer. Directed by Peg Bolin, with sound effects and editing by Tom Priestley. There are certain people who won't admit that nature does anything right. They are the kind that gild pine cones, put antlers on their cats and dogs, and expect small children not to wiggle when posing for holiday pictures. Here's one of those people now.
That dirty swindler. $10 to spray a little half-pint Christmas tree white. Cheating people right and left, making $400 a day. The chiseler? I don't know whether to report him to the BBB or maybe I should have made him a better offer for half interest in the lot. Low down.
What's the matter, McGee? This time?
Oh, that guy, Fred, runs the Christmas tree lot at 14th and Oak, the dirty pine broker, wanted to charge me $10 to paint our Christmas tree white.
That seems a little high, dearie, but think how much work it is putting all those needles back on the tree after the paint dries.
They don't take the needles off. They just spray the tree. Whish, whish, whish. That's all there is to it.
Well, if wishing will make it so, why don't you do it yourself?
It's a $10 job. I can't afford to pay myself that much. Besides, I haven't got a paint spray. Hey, haven't we got a paint spray attachment for the vacuum cleaner? My gosh, I can have that tree painted white before you can say, doesn't that look awful?
Now, look, McGee, please. I realize we need the house painted, but not on the inside. Let's leave the tree green.
You'll love a white one, Snooky. It's the modern thing. Nobody uses green trees anymore. They're outmoded.
You don't say. Well, tell me, Salvador, what color snow are people using this year? Chartreuse?
No kidding, Molly. White Christmas trees are all the rage.
They must be. They throw me into one. Look, sweetheart, just put the tree up and trim it. I love a green Christmas tree. Oh, don't you, Alice?
Don't I what, Mrs. McGee?
Look, Molly, I'll ask Alice and let her give an opinion, fair and square. Now, if you were going to have a Christmas tree, which would you rather have? A drab, dirty, old green one? Or a bright, snappy, glistening white one?
Alice?
Mistletoe.
Mistletoe? What an answer.
Oh, jeepers. Don't you just love to hang up a little mistletoe, Mr. McGee?
Oh, he's too shy, Alice.
I am not shy. But what good is mistletoe? You catch somebody under it, and it's either somebody you can kiss anyway, like your wife, or you get a slap in the chops before you can point up to it. Mistletoe. It's just poison ivy with berries.
We'll put some up, Alice, and you'll see who manages to spend most of his time loitering around underneath it. But honestly, dear, do you like a white Christmas tree?
Oh, I like them all, Mrs. McGee. I don't care if they're pink with purple polka dots.
Now, Alice, don't you really prefer a white Christmas tree?
Oh, honestly, I get awfully tired of them, Mr. McGee. When I was a little girl, my father gave me a little tiny paintbrush and asked me to paint the whole Christmas tree white.
Heavenly days! It must have taken you a while to paint a tree with a little tiny brush. How long did it take you?
Oh, I never did get it finished, but it kept me off the streets till I was 18. Oh, I've got to go wrap some presents. See you later.
How all that lovely golden hair can grow out of solid bone, I'll never know.
She's awfully sweet, though, McGee. There isn't a mean thought in Alice's head.
No, nor any other kind. Well, this isn't getting my tree sprayed.
Where did you leave it, dearie?
Oh, out in front. I can attach the vacuum cleaner cord from the porch light. Hold the door for me, Molly.
Oh, there's Dr. Gamble. Hello, Dr. Gamble.
Hello, Molly. Hello, Pantry Punch. How are you today?
Fine, Jumbo. You out spreading a little Christmas cheer? Gonna tell your patients you're gonna retire?
Oh, he's not going to retire for years yet, are you, Doc?
My dear, I'll retire on that far distant day when I can write a personal check for $400 and not have the staff of the Fourth National Bank bust into hysterical laughter. Well, I've got to run now. This is my busy season, you know.
Oh, I suppose the children keep you pretty busy around Christmas time, Doctor.
No. It's the so-called grown-ups, my dear. When 200-pound men climbing 49-cent step ladders to wire dime store angels to their $3 Christmas trees and wind up in $500 plastic casts. Penny wise and compound fracture foolish.
Well, hey, Doc, aren't you gonna stick around and watch me paint our Christmas tree white?
No. Hey, if you want a white Christmas tree, well, all you got to do is put my bill under it after I've treated you for paint inhalation. Goodbye.
Oh, this doggone thing.
What seems to be the matter, dearie?
This paint sprayer clogs up like a sentimental woman at a sad movie. Goes along all right for a minute and then clogs up.
Well, pound it on the porch step. Maybe that will loosen it up.
Okay, I will.
Now try it.
Okay.
Oh, heavenly days, McGee! You almost hit me with that.
Oh, sorry, kiddo. Didn't know it was loaded. When it came loose, it threw a bob of paint that could have knocked somebody out of the balcony. Well, stand back. Here we go. Dad rat it had done it again. Clogged up.
You're getting more paint on you than on the tree, McGee.
Well, the wind keeps changing. That'll make these paint sprayers with a weather vane on them.
Well, hurry up and get the job finished. It's colder than the icebox out here.
Well, you go in the house if you want. I can handle this all right.
Oh, no. I've got to stay out here and tell people who you are. Get a little more of that white paint on you and people will think you're a badly constructed snowman.
Oh, that does it. There she blows. I'll have this tree sprayed before you can...
Stopped up again, McGee?
Yeah, the doggone thing. I'm never going to get this tree sprayed. Oh, dadgummit! Oh, No, this is the best it's been yet. Oh, look how white the tree's getting, Molly.
McGee, are you sure?
Oh, now, don't bother me now, kiddo. You're going too good. Hot dog, ain't that getting beautiful? Finally got this spray gun working perfect.
I know, but look, McGee, there's one question I'd like to ask you.
Oh, later, Tootsie. I'm almost finished. There we are. All done. And believe me, that is the whitest Christmas tree you will ever see. Now, won't you admit this is a mighty perfect effect?
Yes, if you like that sort of thing. Well, I'll go in and make some hot coffee, dearie. McGee.
What, baby?
I've been wanting to ask you, whose Christmas tree is this on our front porch?
Oh, well, that's the one I bought this morning that I'm going to paint white. And, oh my gosh, which tree did I paint?
The one that's been growing there in the yard all these years? Bring the vacuum cleaner in when you come.
If I ain't the dumbest guy that ever lived. Wise guy, a know-it-all. I can't tell one tree from another. Oh, I am brainless and incompetent. If I weren't so stupid, I'd...
Matter, mister.
I know that voice. It's you, isn't it, Teeny?
Sure is, you betcha. What you sitting there with your head in your hands for, mister? Got a headache? Want an aspirin? What do you say? Do ya? Do ya?
No, thanks, sis. Medicine won't touch the kind of headache I got.
Gee, I'm sorry, mister, but... Oh, boy, who did that?
Who did what?
Who painted that tree white? Gee, is that ever beautiful?
Well, you see, I got a little confused.
You're the nicest man in town, I bet you. You put your Christmas tree right out in the front yard where everybody could share it with you. Boy, all the kids in the neighborhood are going to love your tree, mister. Boy, I can hardly wait to get it all lighted up.
You can't?
Huh?
I said you can't.
Can't what?
I can't wait till I get all the lights on it.
Gee, neither can I. And you know what, mister?
What?
When it's growing in the ground like that, it can't wobble and fall over either, like my Christmas tree at home.
Well, sis, lots of people make that mistake.
Well, I gotta go, mister. Bye.
Bye, sis. Lights sure would look good on that tree. Now, where are those lights? I have got to get that closet cleaned out one of these days.
Thank you for joining us this evening. And everyone from 79 Wistful Vista wishes you a very happy holidays.
I learned at an early age that I really loved making people laugh. In fact, I remember the exact day. First day of kindergarten. Up until then, my mom always used to dress me. But I remember telling her that I was a big girl now, going to school, and I should dress myself. So Mom agreed, and she laid out my clothes for me. When I went upstairs, they were, my whole outfit for the first day of school. The dress was mint green with a pattern of leaves. It had a white lace collar, black patent leather belt. I had white anklets also with lace, and the shoes. The shoes were black patent leather Mary Janes. I dressed myself, went downstairs, kissed my mom goodbye, and took off for school. Oh, school was only a block away, so I was able to make it on my own. And I remember walking down that sidewalk and feeling so grown up. I was almost to school when I heard my name, and I turned, and it was my mom. She was running after me. She was about a block away. She was saying something, but I couldn't make it out. And she was holding something in her hand, waving it. As she got closer, I heard what she was saying. "Jeannie, you forgot these." And as she got up close, I saw what she was holding. My brand new pink underpanties. Yeah. She took a hold of my hand and we crossed the street, and she took me around to the back of the school, and I stepped into my panties. And then I heard it. Laughter. Lots of laughter. About 10 of my classmates were just a few feet from me. And they were watching the whole thing and laughing. Can you imagine how that made me feel? Well, I'm going to tell you. It made me feel great. I mean, I was the center of attention, and I was making them laugh. I felt so good. I tipped an imaginary hat, and they laughed again. And then I did a little curtsy, and they laughed at that. Next thing, I gave a thumbs up to my mom, and I said, "See you later, kid." And I took off for the door with the kids in tow, my very first groupies. To this day, I still love entertaining and making people laugh. Before the pandemic, I spent most of my weekends at senior centers and assisted living homes telling jokes to seniors. Everyone's got to laugh, right? I remember my last gig was at a memory care center here in Loveland. And when I walked in, there were 6 or 8 residents in the waiting area. And they all just came around me and made me feel right at home. Finally, I had to ask. I asked one of the little ladies, I said, "Excuse me, do you know who I am?" She said, "No, honey, but if you go to the front desk, they'll tell you." I always start my routine the same way. "Hi, my name is Jean Knott. You can call me Jean, but don't call me Miss Snot. I really do love my last name. I mean, what's not to love? Besides, how many people do you know that can get a laugh just by introducing themselves?" My mom's maiden name was Wood, so when she married my dad, she became Margaret Wood Knott. Why, even their wedding announcement was funny. The headline in the newspaper read, "Would not marry." When I got engaged to Paul Crumby, 12 years ago, I thought about maybe using Knott as my middle name, but I thought, I'll try it out first. So while we were still engaged, I made reservations at the Buell Theater. When we got to the will call office, the girl asked me, "What name are the tickets under?" And I proudly said, "Knott Crumby." She looked at me and said, "Okay, you want to give me a clue?" A few years after my parents were married, my older sister Marley was born. 7 years later, I was born. And 7 years later, my brother Bill was born. And people would often ask my dad, they'd say, "Wiley, why did you wait 7 years between each kid?" My dad would always say the same thing. "Haven't you ever heard of the 7-year itch?" I was born in Vineland, New Jersey. And quite a few people ask me, "How come you don't have an accent?" Oh, I do have an accent, but it usually doesn't come out unless I'm telling jokes or if I've had too much wine. And to be honest, I think some jokes are just made to be told with a Jersey accent. For example, I'll give you this one. It's probably my favorite joke. It was passed down to my father from his father, and then Dad passed it on to me. 2 ladies are on an airplane. The one seated next to the window has this huge diamond ring. The woman next to her leans over. She says, "Oi, I have never seen such a gorgeous diamond." The woman says, Thank you. This is the famous Plotnik diamond." The woman said, "The Plotnik diamond? I never heard." She says, "You never heard of the Plotnik diamond? You heard of the Hope diamond, right?" She says, "Yeah, well, this is the Plotnik diamond." The woman said, "You know, I would give my right arm for a ring like that." The woman said, "No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't, because with this ring comes a terrible, terrible curse. A terrible curse, the lady says. What is it? The woman says, Mr. Plotnik, ba-dum-ba-dum. I went to college in North Carolina. That's how I lost some of my accent. But one day I was standing out in front of the dorm, and this is a true story, and a little dog ran by, and a girl was standing there. I had never seen her before, and she said, "Oh, look at that cute dog." I said, "Don't tell me you're from New Jersey, right?" She said, "Yeah. How'd you know?" I said, "Well, I knew the moment you said, 'Look at that cute dog.'" She thought for a second and said, "Yeah, a lot of girls in Jersey like dogs." Now, the seniors, I have found, love certain jokes more than others. They like jokes about doctors, about marriage, and what I like to call bathroom jokes. Okay, here's an example. A guy goes to the doctor. He says, "Doc, I have been constipated for days. Haven't had a bowel movement. I don't know what to do." The doctor says, "Well, what are you doing for it?" He says, "Well, I go to the bathroom every half hour." He says, "Are you taking anything?" The guy says, "Yeah, Reader's Digest." A little old man shuffles into an ice cream parlor, and he is obviously in a lot of pain, and he sees the stool at the counter, and he really works hard and painfully wakes his way up and sits down on the stool, completely out of breath, just enough to say, "Banana split, please." The sweet young waitress comes up to him and says, "Crushed nuts?" He says, "No, arthritis." Speaking of anniversaries, my anniversary's coming up, and I told my husband what I wanted. I said, I want something shiny that goes from 0 to 160 in 5 seconds. He got me a bathroom scale. The other day, I heard a married couple arguing, and the wife was saying, "I am so tired of you pushing me around and talking behind my back." The husband said, "Gladys, what do you expect? You're in a wheelchair." I was in Denver last week. Denver has changed, let me tell you. I was mugged, yeah. I was walking down the street. The guy comes up to me and he says, "Give me your cash." I told him, I said, "I don't have cash. I don't carry cash." He started frisking me, took his hands and started feeling around under my blouse. Finally, he stopped. He said, "I guess you're right. I guess you don't have any cash." I said, "Wait a minute. Keep it up. I can always write you a check." Mark Twain once said, "If you want to cheer yourself up, the best way to do it is to cheer someone else up." I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I really hope the next time we see each other, it will be at a Moon Theater Company production, live. Merry Christmas.
All right, our story for Christmas is The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. $1.87, that was all, and 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted it, $1.87, and the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl, and so Della did it, which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned all of them inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornamentation. as all good things should do, and it was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that it must be Jim's. It was like him, quietness and value. The description applied to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out her curling iron and lighted the gas and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love. Which is always a tremendous task, dear friends, a mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror long, carefully, and critically. If Jim doesn't kill me, she said to herself, before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. But what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and took on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stairway down on the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying a little silent prayer about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, "Please, God, make him think I'm still pretty." The door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow, he was only 22, and to be burdened with a family, he needed a new overcoat and he was without gloves. Jim stopped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of a quail. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. "Jim, darling," she cried, "don't look at me that way. I had to cut my hair off and sell it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you." "You've cut off your hair?" asked Jim, laboriously, as if he had not arrived at the patent fact yet, even after the hardest mental labor. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me just as well, anyhow? I'm me without my hair, ain't I?" Jim looked about the room curiously. "You say your hair is gone," he said, with an air almost of idiocy. "You needn't look for it," said Della. "It's sold, I told you. Sold and gone, too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs of my head were numbered," she went on with sudden serious sweetness. "But nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put on the chops, Jim?" Out of his trance, Jim seemed to quickly wake. He enfolded his Della, and for 10 seconds let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. $8 a week or $1 million a year, what is the difference? A mathematician or a wit could give you the wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated on later. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. "Don't make any mistake, Dell," he said. "About me, I don't think there's any way that a haircut or a shave or a shampoo could make me like my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going a while at first." White fingers and nimble tore at the string and paper, and then an ecstatic scream of joy, and then, alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the Lord of the Flat. For there lie the combs, the set of combs side and back that Dell had worshipped in a Broadway window, beautiful, pure tortoise shell with jeweled rims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful, vanished hair. They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers, but the tresses in multiple that should have adorned the coveted adornments were gone. But she hugged them to her chest, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and smile and say, "My hair grows fast, Jim." And then Della leaped up like a little singed cat and cried, "Oh, oh!" Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. "Isn't it dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it, and you'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it." Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down onto the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. "Dell," he said, "let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs, and now suppose you put the chops on." The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicles of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who gave and received gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere they are wisest. They are the Magi.
And that will conclude Act 1. We're going to go now into a brief intermission. Please take this time to use the bathroom, to refill your snacks, to refill your drinks, whatever. But we are going to be back very, very shortly, so stick around. We'll be right back. welcome back. Hope you guys had a great intermission. Hope you guys used the bathroom, refilled your drinks, refilled your snacks, because get ready, we're going to go straight into Act 2, beginning with Rick Padden with his version of It's a Wonderful Life.
It was pure chemistry from the very beginning. Jimmy Stewart playing George Bailey and Donna Reed playing Mary Hatch. A wonderful life and a wonderful story. One that warms our hearts each year about this time, and one that reminds us that we may have already done more with our lives than we know.
Mary, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day and the next year and the year after that. I'm shaking the dust of this crummy little town off my feet and I'm going to see the world. And then I'll come back here and go to college and see what they know. But then I'm going to build things. I'm going to build airfields, and I'm going to build skyscrapers 100 stories high. And then I'm going to build bridges a mile long. And then, Mary, what is it you want? What is it you want? You want the moon? You just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and I'll pull it down. Hey, that's not a bad idea. I'll give you the moon, Mary. And then what? Well, then you'll swallow it. And it'll dissolve, see? And then moonbeams will come shooting out through your fingers and your toes and the ends of your hair. Oh, Mary, I can see it all now.
It didn't quite work out that way. Oh, they got married, of course, and moved into Mary's dream house and fixed it up and had 4 children. But George never did get to travel. No, he stayed in Bedford Falls, took over his father's modest building and loan company, and settled in for a boring life, struggling to keep the town's rich skinflint, Mr. Potter, from taking over the rest of the town. But still, George had his moments and towed the line, like the time there was a run on the banks.
Oh, come on now, all of you. Please listen. You're looking at this place all wrong. As if I had the money back here in the safe. Well, the money's not here. No, the money's in Joe's house, in your house, Ed, next door, and the Kennedy house, and Mrs. McLean's, and 100 other houses. I'm begging you, please don't do this. If Potter gets a hold of this building and loan, why, there'll never be another decent house built in this town again.
George would end up using his own money to help his shareholders through that crisis. But his lack of greed and his compassionate nature would mean that his company would never really be much more than barely surviving. And then came the war. And that fateful Christmas Eve, when his Uncle Billy lost $8,000 of their money.
$8,000? Not our money. Not the depositor's money. Well, the bank examiner is here. Well, come on. Think. You got to think now, you old fool. Where's that money? This means bankruptcy and scandal, and one of us is going to jail, and it's not going to be me.
Well, this was not like George at all. It wasn't like him to be mean. And yet at home that night he was harsh and short with his wife and children as well. And it was Christmas time. He was outside of himself and knew it. Desperate, he turned to Mr. Potter for help and was rudely rebuked. In fact, Potter threatened to have him arrested instead of helping him. Thinking that his wife and his children and those who loved him would be better off with him dead, he contemplated suicide.
Dear God, oh God in heaven, if you're up there and you can hear me, show me the way. Show me the way. I'm at the end of my rope. Show me the way.
Drunk, with his lip bleeding from a fight in the bar, George crashed his car, hitting not only a tree, but rock bottom as well. A troubled George Bailey stood on the Bedford Falls toll bridge, staring down at the icy waters below, poised to end it all. when suddenly Clarence, a wingless angel, jumps in the water instead, compelling George to jump in to save him, which, of course, Clarence knew he would do. Warming up and drying out, Clarence tries to explain himself as best he can.
I'm an angel second class, George. I haven't won my wings yet, but you can help me earn them by letting me help you.
Help me? Okay. You couldn't help me with, say, $8,000 now, could you?
But we don't use money in heaven, George.
Yeah, well, I'm worth more dead than alive.
Now, you mustn't talk like that, George. I'll never get my wings if you keep that up. You just don't realize what you've done for people. Why, if it hadn't been for you...
Well, if it hadn't been for me, they'd all be better off. My wife, my kids, my friends.
But killing yourself won't make them happier.
Well, I don't know. I suppose you're right. I guess it'd be better if I'd never been born in the first place.
What? What did you say?
Yeah, I wish I'd never been born.
Okay, George. You've got your wish. You were never born.
And now listen, Clarence, or whoever you are.
You have no worries. No missing $8,000. No sheriff or Mr. Potter on your tail. You don't exist.
Hey, wait. Say something into my bad ear.
You hear me all right, George. You don't have a bad ear. That's because you're not the George Bailey that you used to be. Now you're nobody.
Oh, that's nuts, but I can hear.
And your lips stopped bleeding, too.
Well, yeah, it did. Well, then who am I, then?
You have no identity.
Oh, what are you talking about? I'm George Bailey.
No, you're not. No papers, no driver's license, no 4F card, no insurance policy. You don't exist.
What, I'm a ghost?
You've been given a gift, George, to see the world without you.
You know, you're nuts. You're just nuts, Bub, and you're driving me nuts, too. I'm going back to the bar for a drink.
I know. I'm coming with you.
George finds that the bartender no longer knows him, and then he sees a scruffy, bedraggled man begging for money at the bar.
Oh, well, hey, there's Mr. Gower over there. But hey, what happened to Mr. Gower? How could that be? He's begging for money.
Well, don't you see, George? You weren't there to stop Gower from accidentally putting poison in that child's medicine. He spent 20 years in jail for it.
I wasn't there. Sure, I was there.
No, because you were not born.
Well, if I wasn't born, who am I?
Nobody.
George finds that he is in Pottersville now, not Bedford Falls. The building and loan is gone. A woman he once helped out of trouble is now a prostitute. A cab driver he once helped is now living in a shack, alone and divorced. The beat cop, his friend the beat cop, doesn't even recognize him. His old house is abandoned and run down, and he has no wife or children. He is viewed as crazed and delusional. His Uncle Billy is in the nut house, and the subdivision that he and his father financed is now a cemetery. His brother Harry, whom George had saved from drowning as a child, doesn't exist, never earned the Medal of Honor, and all the men he'd saved in the war died. Harry wasn't there to save them, because George wasn't there to save Harry. He runs to his mother's house, and she doesn't recognize him. And finally, he finds Mary at the library, now an old maid who never married. She doesn't know him, and she is frightened, and she runs from him.
Mary, it's me, George. I mean, don't you know me? Come on, please, don't do this to me. I'm begging you. I need help. Mary, where's our kids? Please, you got to help me. Please, Mary, please.
And that was enough for George. He returns to the bridge where all this strangeness began, desperate.
Clarence, help me. Get me back. I don't care what happens to me. Just get me back with my wife and kids. I want to live. I want to live again.
Clarence disappears into the fog, and Officer Bert drives up in his car and gets out and says, "George? You all right, George?"
What? George? Bert! Bert, you know me?
Know you? George, I've been looking all over town for you. Where have you been?
Where have I been? Say it again. I can't hear you.
The cop complies and says, "Well, I'll try the good ear. I said, where have you been?"
Why, Bert, I'm alive. I'm alive again.
The cop asks, "Alive again? George, are you all right? You know, your mouth is bleeding."
My mouth? Hey! My mouth is bleeding. Look at the blood oozing out of there. What do you know?
The cop is about done with this. "Well, yeah, Merry Christmas, George. Now get in my squad car and I'll drive you home."
I can't wait, Bert. I'm going home. I know the way home. Boy, do I know the way home. Merry Christmas, Bert.
George is humble and blissful now as he walks through the town in the snow, waving at the people and even the buildings.
Merry Christmas, Bedford Falls. Oh, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, old building and lawn. Merry Christmas, old car. Merry Christmas, tree. Oh, Mr. Potter, Merry Christmas.
George was back. Oh, still in a pickle, but filled with happiness. And then his family and friends and the town folk came to his rescue, carrying baskets of cash and expressions of love. And Clarence, his angel, got his wings that night, signaled by the ringing of the bell on the family Christmas tree. It's a wonderful life, isn't it?
Hello, I'm Kay Laurie, and I'm really excited today because I get to read an original Christmas short story by my mom, Kay Green. Not only is she an accomplished oil painter, she also writes short stories. So I'm excited to read this new story of hers called Fuzzy. A young polar bear was named Fuzzy Joe. He lived up north in the ice and the snow. His home was a cave so cozy and warm, with Mama and Daddy away from the storm. He had a good friend named Sammy the Seal, and they loved to play on a very long hill. Now Fuzzy was roly-poly and wide, and one day, while playing, he started to slide. Rolling over and over into the snow, it started to stick wherever he'd go. He got bigger and bigger until, oh my! It seemed he was almost touching the sky. "Help, help," he cried as he started to roll down off the hill far, far below. "Help, help," he cried. "Sammy, set me free." And Sammy did try, but it couldn't be. Then he kept on rolling faster and faster. Oh, how scary. What a disaster. And Mom and Daddy were following fast. "We'll save you, dear Fuzzy. This surely can't last." And as he was rolling, there stood a moose. "And out of my way, and please help me get loose." The moose said, "I can't, but I know who can, namely Santa Claus, a jolly old man. Try rolling my way, and I'll take you there. I'm sure we can melt that snow from your hair." Then out of the way went the moose with a dash, and then Fuzzy landed with a very loud crash to a very large place, all filled with bright lights, and wee little men, all wearing green tights. Then he said to Santa, a jolly old man, "Surely I will melt this as soon as I can. Now come by the fireplace. Which is your head? All will be well. There's nothing to dread." Now by the fireplace, all nice and warm, Fuzzy started to melt without any harm. He formed a large puddle with a drip, drip, drip drop. Along came Mrs. Santa and started to mop. When Fuzzy had melted as clean as could be, now Santa said, "It's time for some tea. With cookies and cakes and some candy too, we will all celebrate the thawing of you. With all of the elves, Mama, Daddy, Sammy too, and also Moose, who did all he could to try to help Fuzzy by bringing him here. What wonderful friends, so very dear."
What is it, dear?
It's just not going to be the same this year.
Oh, Christmas? Of course it is, dear. Christmas is more important this year than ever before.
But how are we going to do it?
I have an idea. Now, remember that book? Where is that? No, not this one. The other book. The one with the letters from the children and the songs. Where did I put that? Are you sitting on that? Oh, it's right here on my lap. I am so silly. Now, we've been getting letters from children from all over the world for as long as I can remember. Now, this one has a poem, one of my favorites, and I'm going to read it to you, and I think that will help give you some ideas. This is called A Visit from St. Nicholas. It's by Clement Clark Moore, and he sent it to us 200 years ago. You'll remember. "'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, with visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Ma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutter, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eye should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner, and Vixen.
I think that last one was Blitzen, I think.
You're right. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk and laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. And I heard him exclaim ere they drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Now there, don't you feel better now?
I do. What you mean is we can keep the spirit of Christmas even though things are going to be a little different this year.
Of course we can. Now you get back to your lists.
Now one thing though, Mom, are we going to still have cookies?
I will bake you cookies, dear.
Jolly old Saint Nicholas, leave your rules right. Don't you tell a single soul what I'm going to say. Christmas Eve is coming soon, now you dear old man. Whisper what you'll bring to me, tell me if you can. When the clock is striking 12, when I'm fast asleep, down the chimney broad and black, with your pack you'll creep. All the stockings you will find hanging in a row. Mine will be the shortest one, you'll be sure to know. Johnny wants a pair of skis, Susie wants a sled, Nellie wants a storybook, one she hasn't read. Now I think I'll give to you what you give the rest. Choose for me, dear Santa Claus, what you think is best.
Some events become important because of their simplicity, also because of their inspiration and hope, and their wish and recognition of something greater than ourselves. Such was a letter written by an 8-year-old, Virginia O. Hanlon, who wrote a letter to the editor of New York's newspaper at the time, The Sun. And the quick response was printed as an unsigned editorial in September 21st, 1897. This brief letter to the editors has lived on famously and for good reasons since. In this presentation, we will elaborate on this letter by Virginia and the newsman's response in an effort to hopefully help us rekindle and spark a new belief in that is what is beyond us, what is important, and the hope brought by a very young girl, witness to the fact that there are big things in small packages. Virginia had been told by her young friends that there was no Santa Claus. And it was the wisdom of her father to encourage her to write the newspaper, New York's Sun. And in so doing, the work of a veteran newsman, Francis Pharcellus Church, whose picture you see here, has since become history's most reprinted newspaper editorial, which is saying some in this day and age, appearing in part or whole in dozens of languages in books, movies, and other editorials, and on posters and stamps. Again, witness that the faith and hope of a young girl goes well beyond her search for the truth about Santa Claus. And thanks to the website Museum, we have at least some photo of both Virginia and Francis Church, and a facsimile of the newspaper response, which we will be reading to you, both Virginia's letter and Mr. Church's response. Okay. Again, I think the significance of the importance of this very brief letter by Virginia and wise and thoughtful response by the newsman, Mr. Church, we have a confirmation of the paradoxes of life, right? That what appears is sometimes not what's real, or is not only what is real, but there is something beyond. There's not only the profane, but there's the sacred. There's not only the visible, but the invisible. There's not only the seen, but the unseen. All of which points to something greater than ourselves, witnessed by the courage, hope, and trust in the process of truth by the young 8-year-old Virginia. So we will soon be reading for you each of these pieces, both the letter by Virginia and the response by Francis Church. And I hope that the significance of these pieces rings true for you, no matter what your faith, no matter what your orientation of belief, religion, or however you believe in a power greater than yourself. Let this be an instance of faith in that higher power, whatever it may be for you. And we thank you ahead of time for listening.
Dear Editor, I am 8 years old. Some of my little friends say there is no Santa Claus. Papa says, if you see it in the sun, it's so. Please tell me the truth. Is there a Santa Claus? Virginia O'Hanlon, 115 West 95th Street.
The editorial board of The Sun preface my own remarks with the following. We take pleasure in answering at once and thus prominently the communication below, meaning the letter from Virginia, expressing at the same time our great gratification that its faithful author is numbered among the friends of the Sun. And this is what Mr. Church wrote in response. Virginia, your little friends are wrong. They have been affected by the skepticism of a skeptical age. They do not believe except they see. They think that nothing can be which is not comprehensible by their little minds. All minds, Virginia, whether they be men's or children's, are little. In this great universe of ours, man is a mere insect, an ant in his intellect, as compared with the boundless world about him, as measured by the intelligence capable of grasping the whole of truth and knowledge. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist, and you know that they abound and give to your life its highest beauty and joy. Alas, How dreary would it be, the world, if there were no Santa Claus? It would be as dreary as if there were no Virginias. There would be no childlike faith then, no poetry, no romance to make tolerable this existence. We should have no enjoyment except in sense and sight. The eternal light with which childhood fills the world would be extinguished. Not believe in Santa Claus? You might as well not believe in fairies. You might get your papa to hire men to watch in all the chimneys on Christmas Eve to catch Santa Claus. But even if they did not see Santa Claus coming down, what would that prove? Nobody sees Santa Claus. But even if they did not see Santa Claus coming down, what would that prove? But having not seen Santa Claus, there is no sign that there is no Santa Claus. The most real things in the world are those that neither children nor men can see. Did you ever see fairies dancing on the lawn? Of course not. But that's no proof that they are not there. Nobody can conceive or imagine all the wonders that are unseen and unseeable in the world. You may tear apart the baby's rattle and see what makes the noise inside. But there is a veil covering the unseen world which not the strongest man, nor even the united strength of all the strongest men that ever lived, can tear apart. Only faith, fancy, poetry, love, romance can push aside that curtain and view and picture the supernal beauty and glory beyond. Is it all real? Ah, Virginia, in all this world there is nothing else real and abiding. No Santa Claus? Thank God he lives, and he lives forever. 1,000 years from now, Virginia, nay, 10 times 10,000 years from now, he will continue to make glad the heart of childhood.
Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph the nose bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Did all the reindeers love tarry, and they shouted with glee.
Well, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you so much to all of you who have watched this. We really appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and please, please donate on the GoFundMe page in the description. We really appreciate any donations that we are taking. Thank you to the Moon Theater Company. Thank you to the board of directors, Pam Strawn, Kathleen Gruman, and of course, Kimberly Boobin for organizing this whole thing and putting this whole thing together. It has been amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Once again, my name is Ben. Hope you guys have a very happy holidays, and good times are soon to come, I promise.